Hello. Okay, thank you for the break. Join us for another half hour type of thing. So that's what I was basically explaining in more details. And he and the false prophet are there by themselves for 1,000 years in the famous lake of fire. The lake of fire will be occupied for the duration of the Messianic Kingdom by only two, the Antichrist and the false prophet. Everybody, the unbelievers of all time, will join them after the 1,000-year kingdom. So that's why it is important to understand your two resurrections. The first resurrection is only composed of believers. It comes in stages. And the second resurrection comes in two stages also. But the second resurrection is only for unbelievers. Okay? That's basically it. He is soon after resurrected, the Antichrist, for the purpose of being cast alive into the lake and so on. Let's go to lowercase e at the bottom of your page, the result of it, 21, 22, and 23, which are not easy to explain. Try to make the best of my ability. Look at your passage, chapter 14, 3 verses that I read right now. Ask you to maybe not to circle much. Can somebody help me out with a nice voice, 21, 22, and 23? Anybody that is on the Vicky, would you please do that for me, sister?
21. Prepare for his sons a place of slaughter, because of the iniquity of their fathers. They must not arise and take possession of the earth, and fill the face of the world with cities. And I will rise up against them, declares the Lord of hosts, and will cut off from Babylon name and survivors, offspring and posterity, declares the Lord. I will also make it a possession for the hedgehog and swamps of water, and I will sweep it with the broom of destruction, declares the Lord of hosts. I would circle your entire verse 23. In verse 21, you have the destructions of kings' family. In the same way that they start to colonize the earth. So simply put, no such rulers anymore. No such anti-Semitic rulers of the type of the Antichrist. No such type of rulers as Antiochus IV Epiphanes, 171 BC in the book of Daniel. Al-Qaeda, all these groups, everything will disappear. In verse 22, you have the content of the destruction of Babylon's population. And it's without exception. I will rise up against them, declares Jehovah of hosts, and will cut off from Babylon names and survivors, offspring and posterity, declares the Lord. Completely wiped out. Make a note concerning this. And in verse 23, I will also make it a possession for the hedgehog and swamps of water. I will sweep it with the broom of destruction. It's not a literal broom, declares Jehovah of hosts. That's the destruction of the city of Babylon, now possessed by desertic animal. But you know already that this is shaggy goats and so on, demons with animal-like feature. Demons in animal-like feature. You want to note that because I will come back in this. During the Messianic Kingdom, Sylvie, on this planet, the entire world, you can look at the planet, there, the earth, you know where to locate your earth, she's bluish. The entire world and the planet will be beautified. It will be much nicer. It will be producing close to what it was in the Garden of Eden on the surface of the planet.
But 2 spots will remain a waste. And now you have discovered one. Southern Iraq, or Iraq, where Babylon is located, will be a place of burning pitch and brimstone. For now, it's okay to note that the second spot will be revealed later. It's a testimony of the occult for the 1,000-year people to come, including you. You will be able to point that out on TV or whatever news. Look at that place. It will be perhaps a tool of evangelism. Total destruction. It will not be inhabited by real animals nor the Arab.
Will Sodom and Gomorrah?
No, it's not one of them. No, it's a different place, the other one. Now we get into the more tedious part a little bit, but you will enjoy it. I enjoy it myself. We will deal with a few maps. Take a deep breath. I'll keep you for another 20 minutes. We come to this here. Look at my thumb. Be Assyria and the surrounding nations and so on. Do you remember? Because Babylon was long. Babylon is the first place that he deal with Gentiles people, as much as they have come in contact with Israel. You have this in your notes. It's at your beginning of class on Babylon. So now we're past Babylon. He will come back to it later. Now we go with Assyria. Visualize your passage. You are in 14, starting in 24. Arabic number 1 on your outlines. Don't note this. The destruction of Assyria, 24 and 25. Just before we start, look. I basically made pictures of maps. Assyria is on the right. Just to locate you. The sea that you have in blue is the Mediterranean Sea. And the photo you see the Galilee here as a dot right there, and that's the Dead Sea. So you can see that Assyria is way north, Syria is here, Assyria is further east and north. So now what we deal on the map together is this place for now. The judgment to come about them right now. Come 24 to 27. Let's do only 24 and 25 for now. Jehovah of hosts has sworn, saying, surely just as I have intended, so it has happened. And just as I have planned, so it will stand. And to break Assyria, my land, circle my land, I will trample him on my mountains. Then his yoke will be removed from them, and his burden removed from their shoulder. Let me make the best of my ability as we describe this. Once again, the first nation that he dealt with was Babylon in 13:1 to 14:23. The first nation that he dealt with was Babylon from chapter 13, verse 1 to 14:23. The Babylon he was concerned with, in the passage I just mentioned to you, was the Babylon of the tribulation. You know that already. I'm not teaching anything that you don't know right now. Isaiah will speak later of the Babylon of his own day in his book. Not now, but later. Now, he deals with Assyria in 24 to 27. And he already dealt extensively about Assyria in the book of Emmanuel. He dealt with Assyria extensively. So number 1 here is the destruction of Assyria, 24 and 25. He deals with the destruction of Assyria in the past time. 24a, the Lord of hosts has sworn, saying, surely just as I have intended, so it has happened, and just as I have planned, so it will stand. God swears by himself because he cannot swear on anybody else. He's the greatest of all. So that's why he has to swear by himself. simply because he cannot swear by anybody higher than him. What he swore will happen, it cannot be undone. References: Isaiah 62:8. Isaiah 62:8. Jeremiah 51:14. Amos chapter 4 verse 2. In verse 24b, simply, and just as I have planned it, so it will, he just re-emphasizes it. Verse 25, to break Assyria in my land, and I will trample him on my mountains. That's the fulfillment here, to break Assyria in my land, in his land. The Assyrian will be broken not in Assyria, but in Israel. The Assyrians will be wiped out not in Assyria, but in Israel. According to chapter 10, verse 5 of the same book, I will read that to you. Woe to you, Assyria, the rod of my anger, and the staff in whose hand is my indignation. They will be broken in the Holy Land. And this will be fulfilled in chapters 36 and 37 of his book. What he's speaking right now, the wiping out of Assyria, he will deal with that in his book in chapters 36 and 37. And the specific king that he will be dealing with is Sennacherib. Sennacherib is not a Babylonian king, he is Assyrian. And the yoke of this man will be lifted up. Sennacherib will be wiped out, and the yoke of this man will be lifted up, when he says in verse 25, then his yoke will be removed from them, and his burden removed from their shoulder. He will be dealing with Sennacherib. So that's all I have to say concerning the destruction of Assyria. Look at your outlines. You are at the very last point of page 8, the purpose of God. 26 to 27. Come with me. This is the plan devised against the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out against all the nations. For Jehovah of hosts has planned, and who can frustrate it? And as for his stretched out hand, who can turn it back? God has a purpose for the whole earth. I repeat that, make a note of it. God has a purpose for the whole earth. And it's not global warming. It's kind of funny that since the COVID-19, we don't hear very much about the global warming anymore. Just very little. His plan is not global warming. It will begin with Assyria. And all the Gentiles nation will be struck down, and it begins with Assyria right now in that context.
All Gentile
nations will be stricken down. Because we are in the times of the Gentiles. And when the Messianic Kingdom will come, the times of the Gentiles will come to an end. And the judgment will start with Assyria. Because Assyria was also part of the Babylonian Empire and so on. So we will see that all these kingdoms, the Roman Empire, the Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, Medo-Persian, the Hellenistic Empire, the Greek Empire, imperialism, everything will crumble at the second return, and this will start with Assyria, and it does include, of course, the Babylon, but the Babylon was prophetic for the Babylon of the end time. Verse 27, simply put, it cannot be alleviated. You cannot pray for these things not to happen. They will happen. It's planned by God. The Messianic Kingdom is coming. All the Gentiles' power, name it, stock market economy is doomed to failure. There will be one and only righteous government, and it will be the Messianic King, Christ Jesus in person, reigning for 1,000 years. It will come in the book of Isaiah in 36 and 37. Turn your page of your outline, page 9. When I disappear the screen, those who are watching me, I just show the map closely with my pointer here. That's why I disappear on the right and on the left. We move on. We move on here on a smaller case. You can see here Philistia. I magnify this. Philistia. Okay? So it's on the same map here, but I gave you the place. That's all God, I did this. And then I took another picture of my maps here, Philistia, in order to make it bigger for you right there with the Dead Sea, Philistia here. We deal with them in 28 to 32. Come with me. We do that and we'll probably go home. Do not rejoice, O Philistia, all of you. Circle all of you. Because the rod that struck you is broken, and from the serpent's root a viper will come out. You circle serpent, you circle viper, and you circle flying serpent. Those who are most helpless will eat, and the needy will lie down in security. I will destroy your root with famine, and it will kill off your survivors. Wail, O gate, cry, O city. Melt away, O Philistia, all of you. For smoke comes from the north, and there is no straggler in his rank. How then will one answer the messenger of the nation? Circle, how then will one answer the messenger of the nation? That Jehovah has founded Zion, and the afflicted of his people will seek refuge in it. In verses 28 to 31, Arabic number 1, you have the destruction of the Philistines or Philistia. Verse 28, it says, in the year that King Ahaz died, this oracle came here. It's a short prophecy. It came in 727 BC. The year that Ahaz died. I know it's tedious, but be patient. We're going to be there in a moment. And it's also the same year that Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria died. Tiglath. Pileser. He died in 727 BC. Tiglath-Pileser. Quickly, we have other prophets that have to say against the Philistine. We have other prophets that prophesy that. Isaiah is not the only one. Make a note. I will repeat them twice. Jeremiah 47, 1 to 7. Jeremiah 47, 1 to 7. Ezekiel 25, 15 to 17. Ezekiel chapter 25, 15 to 17. Amos chapter 1, verses 6 to 8. Amos chapter 1, verses 6 to 8. Zephaniah chapter 2, verses 4 to 7. Zephaniah chapter 2, verses 4 to 7. And Zechariah chapter 9, verses 5 to 7. Zechariah chapter 9, verses 5 to 7. Let's go back to 29a. Do not rejoice, O Philistia. Circle all of you. Why does he say all of you? There is a reason for this. Why does he say all of you? There is a reason for this. Philistia was not like the other nations, united under one king. It was not the case of Philistia. They were not united under one king. They had 5 kings right here. Ashkelon, Ashdod, Gaza, Ekron, and Gath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kings of the Philistine. They were not united. So that's why God says, all of you. Meaning not only one city, you have them right there, doesn't matter the order. Gaza, Ashkelon, Asdod, the Ekronites, and Gath are part of the Philistine. Philistine means the people of the sea. The judgment will go against all of them in relationship as they rub shoulder with Israel. Look at verse 29b. I will probably finish with this. Do not rejoice, O Philistia, all of you. Make a slash forward. The all of you is dealt with. Because of the rod that struck you is broken. Because of the rod that struck you is broken. Because the house of David was broken by the Assyrian. Because the rod that struck you is broken, because they were broken by the Assyrian. Now you notice that. For from the serpent's root a viper will come out. Circle from the serpent's root a viper will come out. Circle serpent carefully. Viper will come out. And its fruit will be a flying serpent. Circle the flying serpent also. When the house of David was smitten by the Assyrian, when the house of David was smitten by the Assyrian, right here, these people rejoiced. When the house of David was smitten by the Assyrians, the Philistines rejoice. But God says, the house of David might have been smitten by the Assyrian. The house of David might have been smitten by the Assyrians. But you, Philistia, it doesn't mean that you will do better for this. But you, Philistia, watch out. It does not mean that it's going to get better for you. When he says, "O you Philistia," and further down in your Bible, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I explained the 3 expressions with you, and we quit on that tonight. Now, Isaiah 29b. Because from the serpent's root a viper will come out, and its fruit will be a flying serpent. For From the serpent's root, a viper will come out. You circle serpent, you circle viper, and its fruit will be a flying serpent. The serpent is mild. The viper, poisonous. The flying serpent, deadly. And what Isaiah has on his mind right now, as he writes this, what he has in his mind is 3 members of the house of David. They are: Ahaz is the serpent. Under Ahaz, there is lots of territory lost to the Philistines. Under Ahaz the serpent where is mild, under Ahaz he was slack. Lots of territory was lost to the Philistines. You have your scriptures. Ezekiel, a good king, is the viper. Under Ezekiel, most of the territory lost will be regained. Because the viper here is poisonous. So he poisoned Philistia instead of losing territory. Who is the fiery serpent? The Messiah. Under him, a total occupation of the land. We have the concept of the fiery serpent in the book of Numbers, chapter 21. So he has in mind, Isaiah, as he penned his book right now, 3 members of the house of David. The slack Ahaz, the poisonous Ezekiel in a positive sense, poison for the Philistines, and needless to say that the fiery serpent is the Messiah. He is deadly. Wipe them out. Finish your notes. I'm done for tonight. Don't move. Finish your notes. Beloved on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. You can see the screen and you can make your notes and so on. I would like to thank you for your patience and thank you also for your support, which is at this time very much necessary. God bless you and thank you. You stay.